Oh, it looks like
Okay.
we are live.
It
All
does look
right.
that way, yes.
Welcome, everyone. Today is a mystery topic. We actually were supposed to do one thing and then change it to another, and then didn't create an event for it. So the topic today was originally, do you need a jingle when audio branding makes sense and when it doesn't? So this is actually quite an interesting topic. I know that Pip was really interested in this last week or 2 weeks ago when I was doing a cast with her, and we decided that we should do a jingle one completely because there was too much information in that one segment. However, this has expanded from jingles because I think anyways, I'm going to introduce myself first because I'm jumping right into it and did not do the introductions. Hello, my name is Rena Little from Full Serve Web Marketing, and today with me I've got.
Phelan Lewis from Seymour Digital Media.
And today we're going to talk about audio branding. So, at first, I didn't really want to talk about jingles because to me, jingles really is something that bigger companies do. It's a lot of work to come up with the right jingle. It takes a lot of testing, it takes a lot of budget, and most of my clients are really not in that space yet. But when we started to unpack it in our call on Tuesday, it really became evident how there are other aspects to audio um, branding that actually takes on aspects of the jingle. So um, that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Are you ready to jump in? Because I know that you had some points, and then maybe I could just speak to some of your points.
Yeah, I'm just trying to right now figure out where exactly we shared the video to, because apparently someone's watching, and so I'm just trying to figure out
Oh,
where that
oh,
person's watching from, because what I thought was set up is not what's happening, and so I'm just, but I can jump in to be what I thought was interesting. The kind of the premise that I started thinking about is. Uh, we used to have jingles and now they're not as common, and so why it, like I was kind of thinking like why is that, and it's
yeah,
kind of like, well, it's also kind of like the decentralization of media and it becoming, because like the idea of the jingle is that you put like a little hook that then you associate a brand with a little bit of audio of some kind, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be musical, like per se. Like you could do like there's an old cassette tape company that does Brennan, and it's just their business
yeah,
name, but they just say it in a certain way, and your
yeah,
brain associates it with
yeah.
that. And so it's
And
more just like,
there's also the old one for Welch's grape juice that was not there was no music put to it, but it was just something that they said always, which I loved, and maybe you'll remember it. I love purple much better than orange, and they actually emphasize the
oh,
orange in
yeah.
that way, so it becomes a jingle, but there's no music to it whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's definitely one where, yeah, when you break it down to like what is it actually trying to do,
Yeah,
um, then you kind of get into the idea that it's like, oh, it's not just like, it's about having sort of like a meme like quality that's kind of associated with your brand, and it's like it's instead of a visual component, it's more of an audio component that you're
yeah, so it can just be rhythm or it
yeah.
could have music or it doesn't have to be the same music. So we were talking also about how to use trending audio on Reels and TikToks. Like that becomes um, um, it has qualities of how a jingle works because you're tying into other another virality aspect.
Yeah, and
So
then and also you're tapping in to let's be like all Phil like, you know, academic about it, but it's like the you're tapping into the mimetic qualities of other people hearing it,
yeah,
and then they have an
yes,
association. So by you
yeah,
using it, you kind of short circuit it, and so it's kind of the way we were thinking of it. It's like you're using, you know, certain songs that like those little clips that you hear that people make with TikToks. Well, they have like a certain emotional state that you use with that, and then you can
yeah,
even then subterfuge that, right? Like you can have it sound really epic, and then it's just like it's like a prank one at the end, and so like you can even like invert it on itself because
yeah.
there's an expectation that it's supposed to have this ending. So if you invert that, that makes a good joke. Like those
Hmm.
sort of qualities where it's like kind of the shared idea on like what a certain audio is supposed to represent.
Yeah, it becomes like a cultural moment or a popular culture moment, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, So let's just kind of pull apart what's the difference between a tagline and a jingle, for example, because that's sort of one of the places that I went to. Well, is a tagline a jingle? Not really, but sort of. It could work like it
Mm,
sometimes. And I think it just sort of depends on how you're using it. Um,
yeah.
so if you're repeating your tagline in a particular way with a particular rhythm, in your advertising, for example, audio advertising, video advertising, then that could actually have a similar effect. But when do you think? What do you think about that in terms of taglines and jingles?
Well, I think that they're much more flexible
Excuse
than
me.
they used to be. Of like it being a much more rigid structure of people expecting like tagline here or jingle here. I think it's a bit more fluid these days, and also how people
Hmm.
represent it because like it's almost you could make like your intro or your outro to be almost like a jingle or a tagline as well, where you have like a specific thing you would say, and so people expect that as like you get through a video and at this section they say this thing with this audio clip. Like there's podcasts that I've listened to that they have like drops that go with like, oh, this is the news section, and they have like a little news beat that goes with it. It's like and so they like that it's like the news section,
Right.
and so like you can almost map these things out that way as well. That it's like it's not necessarily like, oh, this rigidly here, but it's also like they can become flexible as being parts that abridge certain sections as well. Like when you're saying certain things at certain times to indicate different things. So I think that they're you know sorry, I'm trying to like I
Yeah,
realized
that's okay.
it was a little
Um,
vague in the explanation, but I think it's like, yeah, it's just morphing in how people utilize the concept.
yeah, so they're quite similar in a lot of ways, but really, when I looked it up, the straight up definition is a jingle has a melody, whereas a
Mm,
tagline is a brand phrase that follows. It can be spoken, it can be in all the places, and it's used throughout of your brand identity. So that would be like a Nike "Just Do It" or something like that.
yeah.
Um, Whereas the jingles would be like Sleep Country Canada, and then there's actually a song that goes with it. So it's not quite a tagline, but it's almost.
Or
So yeah,
I would say the McDonald's one fits like somewhere in
yes,
between a tagline
yeah,
that I'm loving it because it has like a audio
yeah,
quality to it, but it's still by itself. You could say it,
yeah,
and it's still
yeah,
so it's like if it fluctuates on those boundaries.
yeah.
Uh,
So why these techniques work, why we want to still use jingles in 2025, because that kind of audio piece does have a memory stick that's way longer than visuals in our brains. And so the psychology is that the repetition, the melody, and and the emotional recall will be what becomes something that's instantly recognizable, like that McDonald's jingle. So,
yeah.
exactly. So how do we do use that in small business marketing? Um, so you could use jingles in you can use jingles as part of your marketing mix, like to sort of distinguish yourself from your competitors more clearly. Um, but again, it's not something that small businesses go to first. Usually they have a lot of their other marketing pieces in place before they start to think about jingles. So that might be something that you do when you've got your branding sort of down pat and you're on a recurring marketing package and you're getting the kinds of leads that you're going for and you really want to start to scale up. That could be a time when you introduce a jingle into your business. Um, and then we had this whole, so let's go back to what we were talking about, and because we kind of hit some of these things, I want to talk about how jingles fit into the digital world.
Mm,
So because we did sort of talk about this, so you can use your jingles as TikTok hooks or Instagram reel hooks, your YouTube intros and outros. That's often the first place where a business will actually invest in some kind of audio melody.
mm,
That's usually the first place I've seen clients do that.
yeah.
Um, a podcast bumper, I think that's like pretty much the same as an intro to YouTube.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the term bumper before, but that sort of makes sense. Website sound cues. So when you're going through the website, there could be a cue somewhere in your website that sort of tries to get you to do something or understand something about your business.
Mm,
You can also put them in your paid ads and on your, and this was a new one for me that I hadn't really thought about because I'm not very phone oriented, but on your on hold phone music, you could actually introduce it there. Hopefully it's interesting and long and not going to cycle through 50 times while you are while you have your client on hold.
Yeah,
Um,
well, also watch out with that because all like phone audio like that gets double compressed, which is why sucks on it. Is because like
yeah.
all the bands are being compressed one way, and then they get compressed a second way, which is why music sounds so awful when you listen to it.
Oh, it is the worst. I don't know why people use that. I would prefer to have a beep and then just put my phone down on speaker until it comes through,
Yeah,
then listen to that awful music. Um, yeah, so how do you create a jingle without breaking the bank? Um, Start with a tagline or a core message. That's really the first part. Then decide on the mood and you can work with a local musician or buy a royalty free track and you can put those things together. So that's actually a really quick and dirty way of doing it. And sometimes that can get you the traction that you need. You can work with the branding company, you can work with the, even videographers will help with this piece if you're doing like a video intro or outro. And then you can ask for that audio file or video file separated out so that you can use it in other contexts. Um, and you can simply record it yourself. But that's my least favorite one because recording things does take a certain amount of equipment and understanding of the technical space. But if you know those things and you've got that microphone, then by all means, that could be something that you do.
yeah. I think it also varies on what brand you're going for.
Yeah,
So if you're not a very self-serious brand, that it's like you're a little like you're just trying to be out there, you can still use stuff like it's like in public domain music as well. And like you
yeah,
can just experiment with that because like people do it all the time. Like because what I think of is like British football chants. They always use like classical music as the melody because everyone knows it. So it's super easy to impose
right.
words over top of a melody everyone already knows, and then it's just an
That's true.
easy
Yeah,
way to. So it's like you don't have to like revolutionize it, and people kind of know roughly like the Beethoven sonata, what that's like the rhythm of that, and then you're just putting your own words over top. So there's things like that as
right.
well that um, you're and so again, and that's royalty free, so you're not going to get in trouble with anyone, and people already know it. So you can use things like that, but again, it all depends on your brand voice, um, and the
Yeah.
like what you're trying to accomplish with the jingle at the time.
Yeah. So if you're not quite ready to get into jingles, but you want to start thinking about audio as part of your branding, then we were talking about when I go through this with my clients and I've done it with my own company, is that I've worked on the branding aspect. So you want to go back to that form that you probably filled out for yourself at some point, where you choose those um, 5 adjectives of how you want clients to feel about you, and then you want to try and figure out how to match that, get that feeling in music, and then you can start doing things like um, advising your team on what does our sound like. Is it sort of top 40? Does it have this perky sound to it? Does it sound um, excited? Like, is it that sort of like music that gets you on the edge of your seat? Is it laid back and casual? That those kinds of words. So then you can develop a sort of like a little sound library for your marketers to have a really good understanding of what kind of music is going to go with your messaging, your brand messaging overall. And then you can also key into that'll also help you figure out which trending sounds you want to be using on TikTok and Instagram so that you're not using all of them because I've seen it happen on occasion where all of a sudden this like crazy song is trending, but it's got all sorts of lyrics in it that's not really on brand for your brand. And so if you end up using that accidentally or you have a contractor or an employee who uses that sound accidentally, it can be incredibly jarring and work against your messaging. So you want to sort of think about those things and craft that sound just like you're crafting your written voice and the languaging that you're using, your brand voice, your language that you're using, and then the imagery that you're using and the sounds that you're using. So it's not going to be just one thing. I did have a company who tried to get us to use their one royalty free audio that they were using on their main video. They bought that and they handed it over, and they wanted us to use on every single video that went out on social media. And that's not really a great strategy either. You can use the same audio on all of your instructional videos, or all of your, you might want to use same or similar on your educational videos, or any other kind of series of videos. But I don't think that using the same one on every single social media really works effectively. You want that brand established on your podcast and your YouTube channel maybe, but your short form video, that can be a little bit looser, and so that it's not boring. You don't want everything to be boring in my mind, but you do want themes and sounds and like a palette in a way. I think that's what
Yeah,
I would call it. A palette
yeah.
of sounds. And there's probably a better word for it. If you've
No,
got a better
palettes.
word for
Palettes totally
palette.
work because like it's like a like how you have
Yeah.
paints and stuff, and like you're doing different things with the different colors. And it's the same as like you're putting together these different elements together, and like you said, you don't want one overpowering the rest of them. So
Yeah.
you definitely always listen back because audio, especially if you're mixing in other audio, make sure it doesn't overpower people talking or something like that. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that because I've definitely seen some really poor mixes of things, and just
Yeah.
just give it a once over. I'm not saying you have to like digitally remaster the whole thing. It's just more just make sure the audio doesn't it sounds okay at the end of it, and just test it
Yeah.
before it goes out.
Yeah, exactly. So, I do have a little list of actionable items for anyone that's interested in getting started.
Cool.
And this information should also go on your branding guideline document. It shouldn't be a separated thing. It needs to get added to your already established brand. So you want to define your brand mood, which I always say go back to your kickoff form, your branding kickoff form, or whatever branding strategy document that you've got in your files. You might want to draft a one-line message, like a tagline or something like that, and play with that. And then decide where you're going to use the jingle. So you might not want to put it everywhere, but you might want to put it in certain places. Make sure that's really clearly laid out for your team. And then you can decide if you want to put a budget aside and actually create an audio that you can work with, or if you're just using that sort of palette approach that we talked about. And then you want to talk to a musician or an audio brand specialist or a branding specialist, or anyone. Videographers can really help you with that. Anyone that can sort of help with this piece. I don't know why I keep going to videographer, but I think because most of the audio that I've done for clients comes from podcasting, and so therefore, um, my videographer has been really good at providing that for me.
Yeah, and
Generally, you
videographer.
do want a video to go with it. Like usually, it goes with an intro and outro, something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
most
because
people aren't adding a tagline to a video without imagery to go with it. So sometimes it's easier to work that way. But you can even upload your audio into Canva and add it to existing videos. That's possible.
yeah, I would say the videographer seems like the person that would be the best inclined, mostly because they're the ones that are trying to make sure the visual cues are lining up with the
Yeah.
audio cues, and so it makes
Yeah.
sense that they would. Because again, we're not like doing the most insane audio recordings ever.
No.
That makes
Yeah.
it easier for the client to or the videographer to do it for the client, where it's just all kind of done in one, and it's just they'll just insert it and then
Yeah.
make sure the audio doesn't sound insane, and so they're usually pretty good for that as long as you're not giving them like super complicated pieces to put together. Should be pretty straightforward for any videographer to kind of do a quick edit of that.
Right. Exactly. So, did I think I went through pretty thoroughly my notes, did I? But I know that, Phelan, you had quite different notes than I did when we started. Is there anything on your side that we didn't cover already?
I think we covered most of it. It's just sort of because yeah, we were talking about, so the side that I saw was like if you're doing like sound design with the kind of the elements to think about, we kind of talked about it, but to be more explicit about the jingle itself is like obviously music we already talked about. Also making sure
Yeah.
if there's any voiceovers that those are done and that again they're all matching with the tone of what the music's going with and that they're not one's not overpowering the other. And then if there are any like sound effects as well, those can be used to
Right.
good effect. Again, you don't want those overpowering them or come in at a weird spot. So it's obviously,
Right.
don't get obsessive about it, but like just sort of give it a once over and then also hear it within the context of the video you're trying to insert it into, right? Because that, to my mind, makes sense that it's like we're looking for it as a kind of holistic thing of like it's not like a jarring shift in tone. That's not what you're going for when you're having these audio clips. They're supposed to kind of smoothly come together to like abridge parts as people are, starting the video or closing it out.
Right. So, just I just scrolled down and got to the I want to so go back to the difference between a tagline and a jingle because I think this is a really clear definition or way of thinking about it so that you can really be clear. So a tagline communicates your message and a jingle makes you memorable. So sometimes they can actually be together. Your tagline can be included in your jingle, but not necessarily. But a jingle is not included in a tagline.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why I find that funny, but I do. If you can print it on a business card, it's a tagline, and if you can sing it, it's a jingle.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of because I think that it took me a little bit to really pull those apart and figure out where one ends and the other begins because a lot of it functions similarly when
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing your brand. And sometimes it just comes out automatically. You're working and you're using these things as you go, these things as you go, but you haven't actually really pulled them apart and decide what is what. So that's I think naming things is the first step.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and knowing where what you want are looking to accomplish with it, right? Like figuring out
Yeah.
like the taglines, the thing that I want to focus on versus like, you maybe your thing is audio, so like having a jingle would make sense because like you're selling some sort of like I don't know, like AI software tool that does
Yeah.
audio. Just making stuff up, but like if you're doing that, then it would make sense to kind of emphasize more of the musical side of it if you're that's the thing you're
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah.
Uh, so it all depends really on the brand and use that context to really pick which one makes sense for you.
Yeah. So, besides Sleep Country and McDonald's, and I think you brought up the news, what
Yep.
other examples of jingles do you remember, like from years ago? You know, there were a lot of jingles in the 70s and 80s, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, you got one, the Folgers one. Like,
Oh,
what's the
yeah.
best part of
Yep.
waking up? Folgers in your
Folgers is a
cup. That
good
was
one.
like, as a kid, that was one I remember. Um, the Brennan one is one that I remember for the tapes, and it's mostly because it's supposed to help you get out of if you get an earworm. As Stephen Colbert
Oh,
said that if you because it's shorter than any other earworm hook because it's actually like half a second
I
versus a
see.
full second.
Yeah.
And so because of that, you could do like it cuts your brain. It's a weird psychological thing. So like he used it to get himself out of hearing a brain worm, where he'd be just
Right.
repeating stuff.
So
Uh,
if you guys out there have a good jingle that we haven't talked about, please drop a link in the comments below. I'd love to see what's still sticking around in your brain because I really love the Welch's juice one. The other example, it's really hilarious. I got AI to organize my notes for me the other day, and it
yeah,
actually gave me one of my clients' taglines as an example in this list
there you go.
I just saw, which I think is so funny. You know, good old AI
Yeah,
making sure you're plugging your clients. Um,
yeah, yeah.
all right.
The other one that I always find funny, of course, if like as soon as I hear jingles, is immediately my brain thinks of like the 1950s ones where they did jingles for like cigarettes and stuff like that, and they're like, back when they were like, oh, the cigarettes, they're good for you, like and
Right.
just all those like really like very dated ones that are just sort of like, wow, this aged like a banana on a counter. This is not aged well. Of just, oh,
No kidding. Because it makes something like perky and cute, and it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Out of
Oh
something
yeah,
that's
so
demonstrably not.
yes, exactly. Coca-Cola, I'd like to teach the world to sing
Oh
is a
yeah,
jingle. Um, and then there's the State Farm jingle that I don't remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I'm not sure if that's a,
yeah. That's it.
if and then oh yes, and of course the U.S. Army, all you can be all you can be. I remember that one.
Yeah.
And then the Kit Kat, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. I don't remember that at
Really?
all.
Yeah. No, I remember that as a kid.
You?
Yeah.
Um, oh yes, and the Toys R Us. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys Toys
Toys
R
R Us
Us
kid.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
that one as well.
Okay. And oh yeah, Huggies. I'm a big kid now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, what
Yeah, I
the?
almost forgot about that one. It's really hard. I don't really. I mean, as soon as I hear them, I know them, but to recall them, I'm not that great at that. And then I guess the one that doesn't have any lyrics to it is the Ricola Yodel. That one was. Do you remember Ricola Yodel?
Yeah, I do. The
Is
it's
that
the
cough
yeah.
candy or
No,
cough
it's for like lozengers.
lozenges? That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, exactly. Or clap on, clap off. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So these are some of the ones that are coming up online as I look. Um, but yeah, I think jingles are kind of hilarious. Actually, I quite like them. They're catchy and effective, and they can say, "Oh yeah, meow mix." Oh my goodness, the meow
Oh
mix,
yeah,
meow meow,
yeah.
and Alka Seltzer, which was written by a woman. Plop plop fizz fizz. Oh, what a relief it is.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very '80s one.
Yes, and the Oscar Myers one. I know that one off heart. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that for this this particular episode.
Yeah. Well, there's so many that it's all kind of like comes back to you in waves. Like, oh
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true. It's true. Now, what about any contemporary ones? Are there contemporary ones besides the McDonald's one that we really know?
I mean, the McDonald's one's the only one that really cuts to the noise that I really remember of recent note.
Let me see
Because
what comes up in the old um
modern
in the
jingles.
old Google machine.
Uh, yeah,
No, it doesn't like the word that I'm using, contemporary jingles. It doesn't understand what I'm getting at.
yeah. I put
Oh,
in
here we go.
modern, and I just got McDonald's, Intel, and State Farm,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, it's one that yeah I think it's a little bit of a bygone era.
Yeah, but there is one that's sort of like it's more of an earworm actually on that's been very effective on TikTok. It's not really a jingle, it's when people are keen into that virality thing. So when and it's always used when they're talking about something that's sinister or creepy or weird or bad in some way. They use this one particular sound, and I don't know where it comes from. So I'm going to try and see if I can find an example of that to post in the comments.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that brings us to time.
yes, it does. So we
And so
are
what have we
gonna
got?
have to repost this in the Facebook. So it looks like it went
Okay,
to the YouTube, but I'll have a localized copy and I'll send it over, and then we'll get that uploaded to the
great.
Facebook group.
And so next week, thanks so much for joining us. If you found us, you can always find us again on the same channel, wherever you are. We go live on Thursdays at 11 a.m. PST. And next week, we've got This Month in the World of Marketing, where we'll unpack all of the trends that and changes that happened over the previous month. If you've missed out on anything, join us then. If you want to join our community, we're in Facebook in the
Business.
Business Marketing Mixer group. We'd love to have you there. Until next week, have a great week.
You as well. Bye now.
Bye.